In the quiet village of Umuozu, life moved to a rhythm older than memory itself. There were rules, ancient and unquestioned, woven into the very fabric of their days. One such rule was the law of burial. No man must ever be buried facing the east. The elders would say it was the direction the first curse entered the world, where the restless spirits of men wandered just before dawn. Every family for generations had obeyed this law, until Obina's father died. Obina was a man of the city, a man of progress. He wore sunglasses, even in the shade, and dismissed the old ways as village superstitions. When his father, Papa, passed away at the ripe age of 83, the village elders gathered to offer their condolences and a gentle reminder. "Remember, my son," one of them said, "he must not face the east." Obina just laughed, a short, sharp sound that cut through the somber air. "With all due respect, that was your generation. My father was a Christian. He should face the sunrise, the light, not darkness." The elders exchanged uneasy glances. Old Nana, leaning heavily on his staff, spoke in a quiet, gravelly voice. "If you do this thing, you will invite something we cannot send away." But Obina's mind was made up. He insisted his father had always said, "When I die, bury me facing the light." And so, despite the pleas of his family and the warnings of the entire village, he paid the gravedigger double and forced the burial through. He made sure his father's body was laid to rest facing the east. That evening, as the last handful of sand was thrown onto the grave, a peal of thunder rolled across the sky, even though it was clear and starry. The old women in the village began to whisper prayers under their breath, their beads clicking nervously. Obina, however, just brushed it off, drove back to his father's now empty compound, and slept like a man with no worries in the world. He was woken by chaos. By morning, the entire village seemed to be crowded at his door. Someone had gone to the burial ground at dawn, and what they found sent a shockwave of fear through Umuozu. The grave was open. The coffin was gone. At first, Obina thought it was thieves, robbers desperate enough to steal a coffin. He rushed to the site, his heart pounding. The grave gaped open like a raw wound in the earth. The coffin lid lay splintered beside it, nails scattered like lost teeth. But inside the grave, there was nothing. Not the coffin, not the body, not even the burial cloth. A murmur went through the crowd. The elders just shook their heads, their faces grim. "We warned you," Nana said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "He has joined the ones that rise." "Stop this nonsense!" Obina shouted, his voice cracking. "Someone dug him up." But even as he said it, he couldn't explain the footprints. They were long, deep, and led away from the grave, heading straight east, disappearing into the dense forest. That night, the real terror began. Dogs howled at shadows. The air grew unnaturally cold, a biting chill despite it being the warm Harmattan season. And then, from the backyard, Obina heard it. A familiar voice, calling softly, "Na, my son." He froze. It was his father's voice. Calm, tired, just like when he used to ask for a cup of water after a long day's work. "Who's there?" Obina called out, trying to sound brave. Silence answered him. Then the voice came again, closer this time, right by his window. "You buried me the wrong way." Obina's chest tightened, a band of pure ice. He scrambled inside and bolted the door. But then came the knocking. A slow, deliberate three-part knock, the exact same way his father used to knock when he came home late. The next morning, he told no one. He tried to convince himself it was just a nightmare, a trick of a guilty conscience. But when he went to the family shrine to pour the morning libation, the old ceremonial calabash, a family heirloom, cracked clean in half the moment his fingers touched it. By evening, his younger sister Amaka ran to him, her face streaked with tears. "Brother, Papa came to me in a dream," she cried. "He said the sun burns his eyes. He said he can't find his rest." Obina's face went bone white. The dream, the voice, the cracked calabash. It was all real. That night, desperate and terrified, they went to the elders. The old men gathered around a flickering fire, their faces etched with grave concern. "Once the dead walks toward the east," Inanna explained, his voice barely a whisper, "he no longer belongs to us. He belongs to the sun and the shadows. The only thing you can do now is try to turn him back." "How?" Obina begged. The elder looked at him with sad, tired eyes. You must go to the grave before the sun rises. Take something he loved in this life, call his name 3 times, and ask his spirit to turn and face the west again. But be careful. If you see him, if he speaks to you, do not answer him." Obina hesitated, the fear paralyzing. "And if I don't go?" Nana's reply was simple and chilling. "Then you will soon follow him." That night, clutching a lantern and his father's old, worn walking stick, Obina made his way to the burial ground. It was 4 a.m. The wind howled through the trees, carrying faint whispers that sounded like labored breathing. He reached the empty grave, placed the stick on the disturbed earth, and called out softly, his voice trembling. "Papa, Papa, Papa." Silence. For a moment, he thought nothing would happen. Then, suddenly, he heard footsteps behind him, a slow, deliberate crunching on dry leaves. He turned, his lantern light shaking wildly. A figure was standing a few meters away. It was bent slightly, wearing the same white wrapper they had buried his father in. Its eyes were hollow, dark pits, but within them glowed a faint, terrible light like dying coals. "Obina," the voice said. It was his father's voice, but flat, empty. "You came." Obina stumbled back. "Papa, please, go back. Face the west. Find your peace." The figure tilted its head, a jerky, unnatural movement. "You faced me east. Now I see the sun, but I can't feel its warmth. You must help me." "How?" Obina whispered, his throat tight with terror. "Come with me," the voice said, almost gently. He took one involuntary step forward, drawn by the familiar voice, the plea for help. And then he remembered Nana's warning. "Do not answer when he calls you." He turned and ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. Behind him, the slow footsteps quickened, chasing him through the darkness. He didn't dare look back until he reached the riverbank, collapsing in the mud, gasping for air. When he finally found the courage to look, the path behind him was empty. The figure was gone. Only his father's walking stick lay by the water's edge. At dawn, villagers found him unconscious by the river. When he woke, he was mumbling over and over, "He's gone! He's gone!" They checked the grave again. It was sealed, perfectly closed, as if it had never been disturbed at all. For a while, a fragile peace returned to Umuozu. But Obina was a changed man. He moved slowly, spoke in whispers, and his eyes were always distant. Some said he lost his mind that night. The elders said he lost his shadow. And every single morning, as the sun rose from the east, he would sit by his window, staring at the light, whispering, "Papa, I can still feel your eyes." Years later, when Obina himself died, there was no argument. There was no debate about progress or superstition. Without a word, the elders turned his body to face the west, away from the sunrise, away from the curse, and away from whatever waits in the east for those who dare to break the taboo. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe,